Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where last episode we had our successful failure with Apollo 13, and now we're ready to get back on the horse and do Apollo 14. So we're going to hop into the VAB here. We made a couple of modifications to the LAM for Apollo 13. We're going to load that up here, and I want to just double check what we have in these at this moment. So let's just see here. Okay, we've got... That's all fine. Yep. For now, this'll do. Seems okay. So we've got 5 power units, correct? If KER would get out of the way. Yes. We've got 5 power units for now. We may need to make some modifications to this as we unlock more things here. But for now, this should definitely work. We're going to need to land in a different biome that we haven't landed on yet, of course. And we're going to, I think, have Jeb Bill Bob be in this one. That seems absolutely fine. So we are going to save this as Apollo 14 and launch it. I'm still not happy with the way that the fairing and nose cone in general looks on this, but the rest of the rocket is pretty good. I'm okay with it. Okay, so we're going to put this out on the pad, and off we go. As soon as we load, anyway. Eventually. This is definitely not the like, most complicated rocket we've ever made, but it is certainly somewhat complicated. There's a lot of parts to it. No doubt about that. So in we load, and we are going to throttle up, SAS on, and we are already out of here. Fantastic. There's very little that needs to be done because, of course, we don't need to make any modifications from Apollo 13 because we had just a random failure with Apollo 13, right? I mean, a scripted failure, but a failure nonetheless. And so Apollo 14 is basically just taking over the plan for Apollo 13 here. I don't think that's what they actually did. I think they may have just scrapped the Apollo 13 planned landing site, or they might have moved 14 to that. I would have to look it up. I'm sorry, I don't know that one offhand. So we're just making our way on up through the atmosphere here. Apoapsis height is currently chilling at about 13 kilometers, and we're going to just let that go up a little bit further. So I kind of feel like we just go to 30 and then crank it over to the horizon. It's a weird way to do things, but it feels fairly effective. So something like this. So we just bring this right on over here. Just adjusting our heading a little bit because we do pick up that roll as we head over. And that does make it difficult to just absolutely nail the inclination. Hence why we've needed an inclination change for going to the moon, which is mildly awkward, for sure. But here we are at the horizon. I'm looking at our apoapsis height. I think it's probably good enough, unlike the last flight. That's the current theory, anyway. Yeah, we can see time to apoapsis is increasing. So that looks good. We're just going to push this right on out and get as much horizontal speed as we can. We're definitely moving a little bit quick for our current altitude, but it should be fine. That's what the fairing is for. This could be potentially problematic if we didn't have a fairing. Luckily we do. We're certainly building up that roll, though. No doubt about that. Okay. We're going to get just that little bit of extra distance here from our vehicle here. We'll take this up to about 250, I think. There we go. That'll do. I'm going to go a little further because we're still getting atmospheric drag. So that'll be fine. We will circularize here. I'm not sure what our inclination ended up looking like. With the roll that this likes to pick up, that makes it complicated to get a decent inclination. But it should be fine. 1.2. It's better than the previous flight, but not great, certainly. So we can now ditch our fairing here. Fantastic. Exposing everything up here to the not quite vacuum yet. We're still a little bit in the atmosphere, but that's absolutely fine. Let's head on over to our circularization node. And we're going to take a little bit to get there. Our reaction wheels are a little slow. No doubt about that. Okay. Fantastic. And we're hitting the vacuum right now. So that's actually like perfect timing, allowing us to physics freeze right there. I like it. Yeah, that worked very well. So we're going to circularize here as soon as we are basically at the apoapsis. Perfect. A little further to warp here, though. 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so it's going to be like a 40-second circularization burn. That's fine. Nothing too concerning here. We should be locked to prograde at this point. So there we go. We are lifting up our periapsis here. Of course, we were already nearly at orbital speed. So we're officially in orbit now. It's just an elliptical one. And let's just get this circularized. Periapsis is on its way on up here. About 100 kilometers to go. Cool. And yeah, the node is drifting off here. It doesn't actually matter for this, though, because we're just watching this here. There we go. That'll do. So that's absolutely fine. 250 to 252. Of course, our inclination is still a little off at 1.2 degrees. The moon is in a perfectly equatorial orbit in KSP. So we are going to make a corrective burn here and correct our inclination to be about here. Cool. So that's only going to be about a 40 meter per second burn. We would be much closer here and probably wouldn't need an inclination change at all if it was a little bit less rolly as we pitched over. That's probably something we could address, but it is a manageable flaw of this rocket, and I think it's fine. I'm not too concerned about it. An inclination change wouldn't be necessary if we took off quote-unquote correctly, but it's fine. It's not like we have a shortage of Delta V. That's for sure. Except for potentially in our lander. Our lander can be a little bit spicy on its Delta V amount, but that's okay. 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. So let's get that inclination change done here. And we're really most interested in this number here, 0.2, 0.1, and 0.0. That'll do. So no issues there. Of course, next up, we're going to be burning for the moon. I'm thinking somewhere around here. How's that timing working? We might need to change it a little bit. Yeah, we definitely do. So we would bring it in to be about here. We're targeting 115, of course. So about right here. That'll do. And our directionality is correct. That does not appear to be a problem. Cool. So we're going to head off to the moon in about 23 minutes. Let's get positioned for that. There we go. And we are going to warp. Excellent. So this is going to be about a 2-minute, 24-second burn, slightly shorter than some of our previous moon transit burns, which is honestly to be expected given our current apoapsis height. I think this is one of our higher apoapsis target heights that we've gone for. I mean, we've definitely had higher apoapsis heights from our initial launch, no doubt about that. And we're burning. Cool. We'll physics warp it, and I actually do want to turn off this gimbal so that we're a little more steady. We don't pick up a shimmy during the physics warp here. That'll be absolutely fine. We're going to burn a large chunk of this fuel out, but by no means too much of it. Really, we could almost launch this and possibly even this unfueled and move the fuel up here after we get there. That would be a more efficient way to do things, but it would also be a little bit riskier in that we could theoretically run out of fuel. We'd have to run some calculations and or tests to see how that would end up going and see what our margins looked like. But that would definitely be possible and would mean that we'd get a lot further on what we have here. That would be a lot of weight savings. So that's definitely a possibility if we wanted to take this further for whatever reason. At this point, we're just dialing in our periapsis here. And that seems reasonably fine. Okay. That looks good. No issues there. So we're, of course, going to do a circularization burn here. We're not going to run into the issue that we did on Apollo 13, but we're just going to circularize at this 115 kilometer mark. And we've already got our landers here and here. Plus, we have our debris down on the moon right now. So we can see we landed here with Apollo 11 and here with Apollo 12. So we're going to want to target a different biome than we've already landed in for optimal science, obviously. Perhaps this crater. We'll see when we get there. For the time being, we need to get oriented for our braking burn once we arrive. Okay. So it's going to end up being somewhere around here. And hopefully this doesn't change on us when we warp. Nope, looks good. Fantastic. So off we go to the moon. And we'll be loading into its sphere of influence shortly here. Right about now, in fact. Fantastic. So there's the moon's sphere of influence, and we have about an hour until this burn. Make that 10 minutes, and make that 1 minute. Phenomenal. We're going to warp a little bit further here. 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Cool. So about a 40-minute burn here. We can physics warp this. And we're just looking to circularize here. We'll come out of the physics warp as we get a little bit closer to getting this burn in position. And so far, everything is completely nominal. So that all looks good. This is starting to become a little bit routine at this point. And that's good. That's exactly what we want it to be. So here we are in position over the moon. We're going to jettison this fuel. We are no longer using it. It's always sad to jettison the 1349 meters per second. Very, very sad indeed. But we're going to jettison that. There we go. And at this point, we're going to need to do our crew transfer. So we'll transfer over Jebediah. And we're going to transfer over Bob as well. So they're going back to the moon here. And they're just going to undock. There we go. And we're going to use our RCS thrusters to get ourselves a little bit of distance here. There we go. That'll do. So that's great. We, of course, are next going to go down to about a 15-kilometer orbit. So we're going to not go to a 1-kilometer orbit, about a 15-kilometer orbit. And then we'll choose our landing site from there. That'll do. We'll circularize at that, of course. So we've got about 2 minutes until that braking burn. Looks good. We're going to be burning this direction, which is a good direction to be burning, away from this. I like it. But we're also going to have a little bit of time for this to drift on away, and that is great as well. So we've got about 1 minute until this braking burn. 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and of course, this is not activated. We should activate that engine, and there we go. We're braking. So at this point, we're looking for our periapsis to be at that 14-kilometer mark. Or rather, 15-kilometer mark. That'll do. Slightly below, but it's not a big deal. And we'll add a maneuver here and just circularize that right on up. Something about like that'll do. Cool. So we'll get into position for that burn. And over we head. Hello, Trim. Where did you come from? We've got Trim back again. Okay. Well, we know how to deal with that at this point. So, SAS off. I don't think that this trim was actually something that I set up here, to be clear. Huh. Yeah, I don't think that that is. But okay. Actually, maybe it is, now that I think about it. Awkward. Very, very awkward. Well, it's okay. We know how to deal with it. It's not a big deal. So we're going to warp on forward. We got the trim under control. We're probably going to have to fix it on the command module as well. By the time we get back there, Bill might be a little dizzy, but I'm sure he'll be fine. Okay, so as per usual, we're going to transfer fuel out like this, and we're going to be draining fuel from the Lunar excursion module for now, just to make sure that we do not run out of fuel for our landing thrusters. So these maneuvers are going to happen with this fuel. We'll transfer remaining fuel back up later on, once we've landed. So 20 seconds, 10 seconds, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay. So it'll end up being something about like this. I'm just watching our apoapsis height up here. That's fine. That'll do. And we did use up about half of the fuel in the Lunar excursion module, but that's not a concern. So next up, we're going to extend our landing leg, so I don't forget that, but that'll be fine. We're going to... I think we're going to have to do an orbit here, because this crater is, I think, a decent one to land in. Never mind, that's the one we landed in Apollo 11 for. Okay, so in that case, we might want to make for this crater, which would end up meaning that we would do an inclination change and do something kind of like this. Now, I want to bring this back, and I want to overshoot this crater a little bit here. So it'll end up being something kind of like this. Yeah, overshooting it is fine. So that'll look good. That'll be about a 167 meter per second burn. Should be relatively fine. We're just going to be deviating a little bit from our normal inclination here, and let's warp forward for that. Okay. We've got about 1 minute until this burn. 50 seconds. 40, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay. So we are now officially on an impact trajectory, but we want to have the impact be about here. And we're going to do further braking burns on the way, but we just want to make sure we're landing in this crater that we have not landed in before. But this is kind of close to the Apollo 12 landing site, but this should be a different biome, in theory. Okay, so something about like this will do. We're going to do a braking burn up here for sure. But I want to warp to about here. And let's get zoomed back in here. We've apparently zoomed out. We want to be just over the crater here and see if we've got any... Okay, this is considered lowlands right now. Northwest crater. Okay. So there's no in-space near to be done here. Absolutely fine. We're going to want to go to surface retrograde here. And we can see that this countdown is about 4 minutes out. But we're going to do a braking burn before we get there. Why is this going to this, like, the maximum zoom level when we come out of the map? That's quite a thing. Okay. We're going to want to commence a braking burn sometime around here. And we're going to want to just do a horizontal speed reduction, at least down to around there. So like a 400-ish meter per second burn at that point. So we'll align for that. I want to pin this guy open and pin this guy open for now, and we're going to move that fuel on over. Okay, so we're completely drained on the Lunar excursion module for right now, and we're going to do that. We have our burn starting up in 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, I want this to be a surface retrograde burn. I don't actually care about the directionality of this. So that's completely fine. We are just decelerating to a point where we are going to be guaranteed in this crater, and I like this as a landing site. So that'll be okay. We're going to go until we are landing approximately here, which is again a little bit of an overshoot, which is what we're going for. So about right now. Cool. So that should do. And we're still in our surface mode here. So we do want to be flowing fuel out of here for the time being. Okay, we want to make sure that we have maximum fuel in this tank. So that's fine. Why is this saying negative time on this? That's spooky. That's very spooky. Okay, we're going to start a hard burn here. It's now coming back into positive time. So I think that this is, for some reason, incorrect. I guess we're going to ignore this. This might be bugged. But we'll bring this on down. We have about 130 meters per second to go. We've got plenty of time here. Yeah, this is fine. This is not actually a concern. I'm going to park us here for the moment, and we're going to kill our horizontal speed. We can see our impact time is going up right now. Okay, we can see our landing site here. Cool. So this is looking fine. I'm going to park here, killing that horizontal speed. There we go. Okay, we're going to move our fuel again. Excellent. We're definitely going to be a little lower on fuel up here, but that's fine. This is honestly a little overkill on the fuel. Now we'll see if this countdown is more correct. It probably will be now. So, we've got 8 seconds left on it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and starting it slightly, very slightly early. Okay. And downward we come. We're going to continue our deceleration here. Okay, I'm going to go into still being on retrograde for the time being. And we're going to... I don't like this oscillation. We're almost going up at this moment. So we're just going to do something kind of like this. Okay. Cool. And now we're mostly concerned about just bringing this right on down. We are going to have a little bit of sideways drift here, which we can work on counteracting about like that, except now we're going up. I overshot it a bit. Okay. About like that. There we go. So at this point, now what we want to do is pin this open, and we want to stop the fuel outflow from this tank, and we want to flow any fuel out like this. So we want to make sure that our fuel is set up properly here. And for the time being, this is going to be still a good amount of fuel up here. I'm really not concerned about this fuel level. Yeah, should be fine. We're going to have this filled up shortly, and the MEM is going to, at that point, be close to full. But that does mean that we did overshoot slightly on this fuel tank. I think. But we did have that inclination change in there. Actually, look at that. We had just enough fuel to land on this tank alone. Or these two tanks, I should say. This tank actually still has a decent amount of fuel. Never mind. We had quite a bit of fuel left. 112 meters per second, apparently. Well, good thing we took precautions anyway. It's fine. We're going to grab our crew report, and our temperature scan, and our atmospheric pressure scan, and our mystery goo observation. And we're going to grab our materials study. But it is about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to do our surface sample work, and we are also going to actually set up our cargo. and that'll be absolutely great. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.